My Bohn here with Ben Askren, who's having a boxing match on pay-per-view against Jake Paul, April 17th. Ben, it's happening. I know this was first kind of discussed, and there were some rumors out there like back in December. And I did that interview with Scott Coker, and he made the comments, and you guys kind of went back and forth. When did this become truly real?
Well, so he made the first comment when he boxed Nate Robinson that time, and then they reached out maybe a couple weeks later, and then they went silent for a little bit, and then they picked back up maybe, I don't know, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that, and then we made it happen.
Was it a difficult process to get done in terms of the negotiations and getting down the details of everything, or when they reached out, was it pretty easy?
Relatively easy. Hey, remember when Scott Coker was going to sue me for sending a mean tweet? That was funny.
I do. I'm guessing nothing happened there.
I have not been served with papers to this point.
Okay, well, that's good to know. And I mean, when you got permission from the UFC, correct? Was that an issue at all, or were they like go right ahead?
Yeah, you know what? Both Dana and Hunter were relatively easy. They didn't really have many complaints. They signed off on pretty much. There was some annoyingness with Triller was looking at a whole bunch of different dates, so I had to get a bunch of different dates approved. So that was kind of difficult a little bit, but besides that, everything was all smooth.
Dana doesn't seem to like Jake Paul very much. Did he give you any words of encouragement or anything?
He does not seem to like Jake Paul too much. That seems to be totally true.
Did he give you any encouragement, saying, go get this man?
He called that we had a nice phone call. It was probably the most cordial phone call Dana and I have had. It was good.
That's pretty funny, huh? Just all the relationships you guys have gone through, or the moments in this partnership you guys have had. That's funny that these are the best terms going into something like this.
Absolutely, it was good.
That's great. So, I mean, what's your motivation, I guess, for doing this? Obviously, you retired and you moved on from MMA, and it seemed like after you got the hip replacement, maybe your competition days were over. But here you are back doing this. Was it just too hard to resist?
Yeah. I mean, the one caveat I said when I retired is I said I will never be a full-time fighter again. But if something came up that was interesting enough, I would entertain that option. And that's what this is, right? I'm not going to be a full-time boxer. I'm lacing up the gloves one time to beat up a YouTube star. I needed to get in shape anyways. So it's just a whole bunch of things that are working together.
Yeah, and I'm sure the boxing is less, physically grueling on the hips and stuff than it was, grappling or wrestling and stuff. But how do you feel a little, a few months post-op and all that stuff? Are you feeling
my hip is totally outstanding. Yeah, my hip is better than it's been in a very, very long time. And yes, I kind of play around. I'm at the Wrestling Academy. I'm coaching a lot. So I kind of play around a little bit with some high school kids, but I would be very nervous to do any like really high level wrestling or high level jiu-jitsu with my hip. But eventually I'll feel more and more comfortable doing that. But yeah, the boxing is no problem at all.
So I guess clarify for people, I feel like some people maybe aren't giving you enough credit for the amount of striking you've probably done in the training room from the time you started MMA up until this point. Can you give us an idea on how much boxing you've done, obviously, historically?
Yeah, the one thing that is most annoying, and I try to never get annoyed with what people say because I know people on the internet are very stupid. So I try to kill them with indifference, as I learned Aaron Rodgers says. But it's like, in my entire MMA career, in all the sparring I've ever done in the gym, I've been rocked one time, and it was against George Masvidal. That was it. I never got buckled. I never got clipped. I never got knocked down. Like, the notion that I'm hard to hit or that I'm easy to hit or easy to knock down is ridiculous because I don't think you could name very many fighters with 20 plus fights who've been knocked down one time in their entire career.
Yeah, that's facts for sure. So you mentioned Jorge Masvidal there. What do you think of the fact that they are training together? I know you commented a little bit on the video they put out this morning, but just give me some more elaborate thoughts on the fact that those two are going to be working together for this fight.
I don't know. I guess it's funny. I guess it's good for George's PR team, I guess. But, I mean, he's a YouTube star. How much could George teach him in 2 months? Go for it.
Totally. He says he's going to beat you faster than George. Is that something that's just physically impossible at this point? I mean, that would be 4 seconds.
Yeah. LOL. I will not
LOL.
dignify that with a response.
Fair enough. And who are you going to be training with? And do you just go with the same guys at Rufus Sport? Do you bring in anyone different? What do you kind of do here?
Yeah. I'm pretty much putting my camp together with the Rufus Sport people. But I've had some really interesting people reach out in the last couple of days, and a part of me feels like it would be foolish to not indulge some of them, and bring them in for a week, see what they have to say, hear what they have to say, gain some knowledge that way. But I don't know if there's anyone that wants to move to Wisconsin for 11 weeks, in the dead of winter. I think it's like 14 degrees out today or something like that. So there's that. And then the other thing is, listen, I'm not doing a boxing career, and it always takes a while to gel with a new coach, and that's whether me with the new coach or I see it when guys come into my academy and I'm coaching them. It takes a while to get that vibe with your new coach. And so the idea of completely, changing to a brand new coach this time would seem relatively unwise. But I'll probably try to bring a few people in who are high level and try to pick their brain for at least a couple of days and see how it goes.
Yeah. Can you give us any specific names, or are you going to keep that a secret for now?
Just go to my Twitter and see who's been commenting on my posts and retweeting and liking and following me and stuff. There's been actually more than I would have guessed, but quite a few boxers. It really seems to be that nobody likes Jake Paul, which I think is the gist of everything. Is a lot of people want to see this guy get beat up.
Yeah, definitely. And do you feel like you're getting the correct amount of support from the MMA community here? It seems like for some reason people are, maybe concerned about you doing this for some reason.
I mean, a lot of them are jealous that I'm making more money than they are to go beat up a YouTube star. That's probably one of them. Yeah, I don't really care. It doesn't matter.
Do you feel that people aren't giving, again, as I kind of said earlier, giving you enough credit going into this? I mean, to me, the reaction has been slightly surprising.
Don't care. Irrelevant.
Fair enough. And I mean, of course, you feel very confident that you're going to win this, but do you worry about maybe the potential fallout if it doesn't go your way in terms of how people may view your legacy in combat sports?
No, also irrelevant to me.
So, what's your biggest motivation here? Is it just the money and the fact that you don't like this guy and you want to beat him up?
You know what? I don't really have too many feelings about Jake Paul. I mean, I do think like this whole notion that he's a real fighter is semi ridiculous. Yeah, it just seems like something fun to do. Like I've said this 20 times. Like I used to box for free with my friends in the basement. It seems like fun to go beat this YouTube guy up. Like that's literally it. It seems like fun. They're gonna pay me well. I need a reason to get in shape. It's a culmination of a whole bunch of things that are making this happen.
For sure. Do you feel at all that you are kind of standing up for MMA in a way here, though? Like
No.
he's saying, no, not at all.
You're trying to paint a whole bunch of narratives that aren't there.
No, I mean,
I'm gonna go beat up this YouTube guy, and I'm going to show him that he's not a real fighter. And you know what? Maybe a lot of fighters, and this is right, any genre: wrestling, jiu-jitsu, boxing, kickboxing, MMA. You pick the genre of fighter, and they're going to take some solace in the fact that this rich kid is a wimpy little boy and he's not a real fighter. And despite the fact that he's been parading around like he is and wants to be, he doesn't know what the meaning of being a real fighter is.
Is there anything he's gonna say or has said already? I know he's brought up your wife and all these different things. I thought you had a great response when you posted the thing of her. Is there any line he can cross here? And I'm sure he's gonna try to push every single one of them in the months leading up to this.
Yeah, I don't know. Have you ever seen me get all that upset? Like, I mean, when you realize someone's doing something simply for the sake of trying to fuck with you, why would you let it fuck with you? That's about as stupid as it gets. I don't play those games.
So I feel like maturity helps you a lot in this situation.
Yeah, well, I've always been like that because I don't know if you've ever heard my story, but I got on message boards when I was 15 years old as a sophomore in high school when they first existed with high school wrestling. And a bunch of these people were talking shit on me, and I just said, like, I'm gonna kick this kid's butt and that kid's butt. And the response it elicited from a whole bunch of adults was so insane to me. And so from a very, very early age in my life, I realized that this like group think is really unhealthy. And especially when things are relatively anonymous online, people love being mean and saying mean stuff. And I decided from a very early age that I would never ever let that affect my psyche or what I wanted to do, because it was irrelevant to me and it was unhealthy to let that do so.
For sure. Is there any unique clauses in the contract for this fight? I remember when Conor boxed Floyd Mayweather, there was something very specific that said, no, if he kicks me, there's going to be this type of punishment. Is there anything in there that, if you kick this guy up and slam him on his head, there's going to be
they should have put that in the contract. No, but I don't think I saw anything. I don't think I saw anything in the contract that was abnormal. No.
Does this idea, just a boxing match, is that something you ever thought about doing, opponent aside, any of that stuff? Like, is this something that you embrace as an athlete who's very competitive, just the challenge of doing this completely different sport than what you're used to?
I love combat. I've always loved combat. I mean, that was probably the main thing that drew me to the sport of wrestling, was the combative. I loved the combativeness of it. It's mano a mano, me versus you. We're gonna figure this thing out. I love that. Was what brought me to wrestling. Really, really sucked me in all the way. And so obviously there's that in boxing also. So yes, I am. I'm looking forward to this. My favorite athlete growing up was Muhammad Ali. So I guess probably as a little kid, I probably did dream at some point that I would be a boxer. Kind of like Jake Paul's pretending now as an adult. I lived out the dreams in my head when I was like 12. He because he's a rich, spoiled kid, he gets to live out the dreams as an adult and fantasize that he's this pro boxer or something.
And two last things to look like you're,
yes. Look, you want to see this list? Look at my Frozen mask. Can you see the coffee stain on it right there?
Yeah.
I stole it from my daughter because I didn't have a mask the other day. She's got all kinds of cute masks now.
That's great. So, I mean, just Jake Paul, does it bother you that he gets this much attention? I mean, it's obviously benefiting you now, but going in, do you feel like this is kind of a depiction of where we kind of stand in the world in a way that he's able to get as famous as he is and kind of skip the line in terms of the guys who have worked so hard in combat?
That's the way the world works. No, I don't see any issue whatsoever.
Okay. And last thing, you predicted a 7th round TKO. What does the fight look like leading up to that point, to when you finish him?
It probably maybe relatively competitive in the first couple rounds. He starts to slow down, and then I start to land a lot more punches, a lot of volume. And then, I think I said in the 7th round, I'm going to TKO him, and he's going to wish he was still a Disney kid star.
Do you take pleasure in knowing that you're going to be able to, give him a prolonged beating in that sense and drag it into the deeper end of the fight?
Well, that's just what I'm predicting. Obviously, if I were to knock him on the first round, that would be tremendous also.
Awesome. Well, we're definitely looking forward to it. I hope you have a great camp leading up, and I can't wait to see the people you work with and all that stuff, and really appreciate you taking the time, Ben.
All right. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.